Building Futures is a great organization. It's been in San Leandro for a long time, but I'm a strong supporter of theirs. They have a shelter, beds for women and children, and a hotline. And I'm very supportive of it because people don't realize that in the United States, 1 in 4 women sometime in their life will be a victim of domestic violence. It can happen to anyone, no matter whether they're rich or poor, no matter what their ethnic background is. And we really need to partner with our community organizations. The district attorney in Alameda County is very strong on this issue, but she can't do it by herself. So organizations like Building Futures is absolutely essential. I, in fact, gave them a grant of $50,000 last year because I believe in them so much. I visited the facility and the women there were just so grateful to have some place to stay while they were going through this bad experience.
What we do here at Building Futures is really let the community know that talking about domestic violence is really important. That when people feel shame, when we keep those kinds of secrets, that's when people get hurt, that's when people get killed. And I really want people to know that you don't have to choose between staying in a violent relationship and being homeless. There are a lot of community resources. There are a lot of domestic violence counselors out there that can really provide advice and support and safety.
So family members, although they're a very great network of support, it's sometimes not the best people to reach out to when you're a victim of domestic violence, because a lot of times the family members do what we call as a rescue complex, where they want to rescue the victim out of their relationship. Statistically, we know that it takes victims 7 to 8 times to leave their abusive relationship. So when the victim decides to go back to their abusive relationship, the family members get really frustrated and they feel like they're helpless and they can't rescue that victim. And so they end up giving up. So that's why it's really important for a victim to reach out to a domestic violence counselor or a domestic violence agency so they can get the support they need. The counselors know the dynamics of the domestic violence relationship and they can give them better resources to end their abuse.
When someone wants to come to the safe house, that they want to leave their partner, they call the hotline. They'll do an intake with the counselor online. They'll ask them if they're a victim of domestic violence. If they say yes to that question, then they'll follow and do the intake and see if we have space at our shelter, at our safe house. If not, they'll get referred to other safe houses around the area.
Over the course of my career, it's not uncommon at all for us to respond to many types of medical calls that involve domestic violence or abuse. Unfortunately, that's not an uncommon occurrence. However, there is one call in particular that stands out in my mind. We were called out to a medical at a residence. So I went inside, asked, a police officer was coming out as I was coming in, and I asked him, hey, what's going on? And he said something to the effect of multiple stab wounds. So I go inside. Sure enough, the police officer was doing CPR on this young lady, and she did have multiple stab wounds. And it dawned on me that, oh my gosh, this girl's 15 years old. Obviously all family, upset, crying, screaming, moaning, you name it. It was just a very traumatic, emotional scene. We did transport the girl, she later passed away. We found out the next day, as did everyone, because this was a high-profile call that made a lot of news at the time, was that this was done by her boyfriend, who was also the father of the baby, and this attack had taken place in front of those other 3 or 4 small boys that were the victim's younger brother. And it just makes you, me as a father, it makes me think, I'm so thankful that something like that hasn't happened to one of my daughters, but it also makes you think that, wow, what's the difference between this family and my family that something like this could happen to them? And it was one of those calls that sticks with you for a while. It's not something you just easily forget.
I think once law enforcement gets involved, a lot of people just assume that there's going to be arrests made, and that's not it. Sometimes we'll just get there, evaluate what it is again, and separate the parties, document it properly, and send them, in the right direction to fix whatever might be broken in a relationship, or they might even go their own ways long term. But for officers that are responding to this on a daily basis, I can't say there's not really any other call that is like it, because we are all, you know, brothers, sisters, families, husbands. So as a father and also a husband, responding to these type of calls are really difficult because you're associating the families you're dealing with your own family. So it's pretty heartfelt for us to be there and try to really fix things when you feel kind of an emotional connection with your community members.
Everyone can play a role in preventing domestic violence by promoting healthy relationships, by standing with survivors we know, and by reporting any incidents of domestic violence. Ultimately, we as a society need to end the cycle of domestic violence, and that starts with each and every one of us. We need to change attitudes, we need to educate our young people, and we need to make it abundantly clear that domestic violence is unacceptable in any form.